Hey everyone, this is Typing Songbird, and today we're going to do a superhero birthday card. I'm using two stamp sets from my favorite things, Your Super and Superboy. I'm using either the boy or the girl and some of the elements. I am also going to use my stamping platform, which is a Tim Holtz stamping platform, and it is the travel size. I've already arranged my stamps onto 100-pound white cardstock from Michaels. I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black ink to ink up my stamps, and I didn't even notice that the camera moved at that point, so I apologize for that little movement there. I'm using this little tool that I won. It's called the Numinator, and there are a lot of different versions of this, but this one is handmade, and it was a giveaway on Del and Artie's channel. So I've already stamped this one time and it's not dark enough, so I just go ahead and do it again using my Numinator to press down, which is such a great tool for people like me who have really bad arthritis. Okay, I'm happy with how dark the stamps look now. So now I'm going to bring in a third stamp set. This is from Whimsy Stamps. This is a background stamp. I think it's called comic book background, and it has other coordinating stamps, but I'm not going to use those. I'm just going to use this background, which kind of mimics the cover of a comic, superhero comic book. So it goes perfectly with these stamps. So I'm flipping over my lid so that I can use it with this rubber stamp, this red rubber stamp, and I'm just going to arrange that onto my 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 piece of white cardstock. And you can see that the stamp is almost as big as that. I think it's about 4 by 5 1/4. So I'm inking that up again using Memento Tuxedo Black ink. And a big stamp like this, you have to go over it a couple of times. And one of the things that I don't like about red rubber stamps is that you get ink in between the spaces that are not raised. So that's kind of a pain. But red rubber stamps do stamp beautifully. You just have to be really careful with where you get extra ink on. So here I'm using my Numinator again, and I'm pressing down. Now with this thick rubber stamp, I really need to just press down with my complete hand, which is a little hard for me, but if you want to get a nice dark look or a dark stamp, then you have to really press hard. Okay, so there's my background and here are my characters. So I'm going to color these off camera, and here I am again. So that was pretty quick. So I'm going to now decide which of these characters I'm going to use. But before I do that, I'm just going to run them through my little sidekick. This is the mini version. It's called the sidekick of the Big Shot. So now I've got them all punched out using the coordinating dies, and they're in front of me, and I have to decide what am I going to do in front of this nice comic book cover. So I'm going to mount that comic book stamp onto a red piece of cardstock, and then again onto the face of the card base. And this is a typical A2 card that opens on the side. So I'm just placing that onto this piece of red cardstock just to give it a little bit of color around the border, and then I'll add that onto the card base. I'm using Art Institute glitter glue, which is a very, very strong glue. I don't really recommend using this kind of glue for all of the elements in your cards because your card will tend to get stiff. So a tape gun like an ATG gun is a lot easier to manage, and it won't make your card stiff. But I decided to just go with the glue and not use as much as I usually do. But just keep that in mind if you do use liquid glue for all of your card elements. So before I start putting my card together, I remembered that I had this little burst that I stamped and colored with a Copic marker, and I want to add a little sentiment on it. So the stamp sets come with different sentiments. This sentiment in particular was just the right size to put inside this burst. I think it reads Your Super. Let's see, we'll be surprised. No, it says You're Amazing. I do these voiceovers after I do the video, so I forget what's on there. So that came out pretty good. And now I'm going to just decide what sentiment I'm going to put on the inside. Now I'm turning this card base around and around because I realized, yikes, I should have done that before I mounted the elements on the front. But hindsight is 20/20, I guess. So I decided on using this stamp set, or this stamp that came with your super set that says wishing you a super birthday. And I'm making sure that it's nice and centered. I'm also stamping it upside down, so I have to be extra sure that this is where I want it. Again, using that Memento Tuxedo Black ink. And I'm just going to go again just to make sure it's nice and dark. All right, it looks pretty centered. Yep, good to go. Okay, I realized that that burst in the center of the comic book cover is a little plain, even if I put one of my little superheroes there. So I decided to put the silhouette of some city buildings or a cityscape at the back. And this little cityscape comes with the stamp set You're Super. Again, the stamp sets that I'm using along with all the elements are from my favorite things, You're Super and Superboy, but the comic book background stamp is from Whimsy Stamps. I don't have a problem mixing my stamps, the companies, as long as everything works together. It just makes for more variety. Okay, that looks a ton better. Okay, so now I'm just going to decide what's going to happen on the front of this little cover. Am I going to use the girl or am I going to use the boy? I love both of them, but I'm also thinking if I put them in the middle, it's going to cover up most of the words. If I put it on the side, same thing. But I am partial to the girl, so I use the girl for this card front. I want to mount her so that she pops out a little bit, so I'm using some foam tape from Amazon. And this has adhesive on the back with that little white backing. Just pull that off, place it on your image or your paper, and then you can just add some glue or tape runner on it. I'm using again the Art Institute glitter glue. And I'm just gonna put her on the right side. So her little feet are resting on the bottom strip that says Amazing Stories every week. So now, I think I'm almost done, but then I remember that I have another element before I add my Nouveau Crystal Glaze, which is that burst You're Amazing. So I'm going to put that on the left side. I hate that I'm covering some of those buildings in the cityscape, but you can still tell that there are buildings back there. So I'm going to mount that also with some of that foam tape or fun foam. People call it so many different things. And I'm just going to add that onto the left side. So it's got a little bit of balance on both sides. Now I'm ready to add some Nouveau Crystal Glaze, and I love Nouveau Crystal Glaze. I like to add it on everything. I go through it like water. So if I don't have my Nouveau Crystal Glaze, which I prefer, I use Glossy Accents from Ranger. So I'm adding this to the burst. I'm adding it to the word comics. I think I added to her boots and to that, to the burst that says You're Amazing. What it does is that it gives it that shiny look, but it also gives it a little bit of dimension. It kind of puffs up a little bit, but not too much, but it really makes a huge difference. So the card goes from being flat to having more dimension, not as much as it would if you just use fun foam or fun foam tape all over the card, but adding this to the background just gives it a little bit of pop, and you'll see when the card is done. Oh yeah, I do add it to the price, $2.49, just because there's a little burst there, so for consistency's sake I add some there as well. So I'm using this heavy Stampin' Up! Punch just to hold it down while it dries, and I will come back when it's dry. And I'm back. So now my card is dry, and you see how shiny all of those spots are where I used the Nouveau Crystal Glaze, and it does have some dimension. So I'm going to show you here on the side that there is dimension. You can see a little bit in the word comics, and of course in the bursting on the little Supergirl, because I did use fun foam on those two elements. So I didn't put the boy to the side. I actually used him. I did the cityscape in the back after using some distress ink to make that blue, and then I used some Nouveau Crystal Glaze in the back, and it looks fantastic. I'm just missing a sentiment, but I will add that on later. So again, I used the My Favorite Things, You're Super. I used Whimsy Stamps comic book background or comic book page, and I also used Super Boy. You can find these on Whimsy Stamps website, on My Favorite Things website, or on scrapbook.com or Simon Says Stamps. I hope you enjoyed, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, leave me a comment. Until next time, happy crafting! Bye-bye.